to What One Thing, a Smart Meetings podcast that provides you with a shortcut to the top of the events world by asking successful people what made a difference in their careers and lives. I'm Marin, founder and CEO of Smart Meetings, and we have a wonderful treat for you today. I'm such a fan. I can't wait to share with you. The improvisational Judi Holler feature of Fear is My Homeboy, How to Slay Doubt, Boss Up, and Succeed on Your Own Terms. She has applied the rules of yes and to build a company and a life on her terms. Let's find out how she slays self-doubt to step up to the highest levels. And before we start, Judi, I have to say, I am a fan. I follow you on Insta. You inspire me. You are so fun. You are so lively. You're disco ball. You're all that. And the other thing, I just have to get in a shameless plug because I rarely do this, but it really hits home for me. Your book, Fear is My Homeboy, is so well written, and I am a real kind of self-help connoisseur. I have a million of them. I cart them around in boxes. God help me when I move. But yours covers so much and really gets in there with good answers. So thank you so much for that. And I want to say, you start out in your book saying that you can't be brave unless you're scared first. How did you learn to make fear your friend, fearless, and live fearfully?
Well, first of all, can we address the book thing? We must be sisters from another mister, because this is the big pain. Whenever we move, my husband's like, all the books, they're all coming? I'm like, they're all coming.
Me too. I have the same thing. Yeah, we're storing them.
Especially my personal development.
Yes, exactly.
I've got it everywhere in my office. I mark them up, I highlight them, I flag them. And honestly, I call on them. Like, it's one of my little hacks. So when I am writing for my newsletter, or I am working on some thought leadership, or I'm creating content, a lot of times if I'm lacking inspiration, you know what I do? I grab a book off my shelf, open it to where my eyes fall, and I sort of let what lands on that page sort of inspire what I want to say that day, and use the words to remix maybe my own perspective.
I love that. And I do that too. I just open it up and I'll go, what do I need to know? And,
what do I need today?
Intuitively, it kind of, the guides take you there, and it's so powerful. So I'm with you, sister. I'm with you.
We are the same. I think it can be really powerful, not even as a guide, not even as, say there's content, inspiration, but yeah, just like you said, intuitively from a guide perspective, I do that all the time. So we are cut from the same cloth. So thank you for the compliments. It means the world. I'm so proud of that book. It's hard to believe she's just turned 4 years old, and I really and the book is still wildly successful and just has taken on this life of its own, which has been so much fun. And so this kind of comes back to your question. And I think what makes the book so interesting and so relatable and so relevant is that fear ain't going anywhere. And if we want to make moves, make money, build businesses, create things, live differently, we have to figure out how to face our fear. And I think one of the big questions I'll get, say it's after a keynote or whatever, someone will say, well, Judi, okay, so cool. Like, how do I get rid of it though? Like, how do I get rid of my fear? And I'm like, you'll never get rid of it, but you can work with it. And so for me, the answer to your question has been figuring that out over the years. And improv has really sparked that for me. What improv taught me is that it is in the comfort of discomfort that we actually crack open the magic. And when we begin to realize oh, my fear is actually a clue. It's a really powerful clue. And if I am afraid, I'm probably doing it right. That for me is confidence, right? And the more we sort of experiment with our fear, play with our fear, and start to dance with our own discomfort, we get more comfortable in it. And this is where all the good stuff begins. So the real big idea in the book, and certainly in my keynotes on stage, is to really help teams and leaders across industries figure out how to get more comfortable being uncomfortable. Because listen, if you want to have a better relationship with your spouse, you better date them. If you want to be more creative, you better sit down and date your creativity. You better write. You better go do creative things. Well, I think the same way about fear. If you want to be more courageous, are you dating your fear? When was the last time you did something scary? If you don't hang out with your fear, how do you expect to get braver? So it's really about figuring out how to increase your tolerance for pain. And if you can do that, you can start to make big moves.
I totally can relate to that. When we first started our events and I had to get up on stage, I think I spent the entire year in fear. I felt nauseous before every event. I totally get it. There's nothing to it, but you have to go through that. You have to build that muscle. So you define something called slayophobia, a fear of success that causes a person to doubt their greatness and play it safe. I have this. I just actually got a psychic reading and she said I had fear of success. Why do we do this? And how can we do a better job of loving and supporting ourselves? What are your takes on that?
Okay, I love this. And this whole fear of success thing, I feel you're psychic on this one because I think most of us have a little bit of this because here's the deal. And Stephen Pressfield writes really beautifully about this in his book, War of Art. Like that's the real mother of all fears, the master of all fears, the fears that's so close to us that even when we say it, we don't believe it. The fear, can you tell I've got it memorized? The fear that will succeed, right? It's one of my favorite passages of all time, like the fear that will actually do it. And here's why it's real. The second you do something new, the second you put yourself into the arena again, because listen, you're already doing it. You're running a company, you're a CEO, you're a founder, you are making big moves, you're in the arena, you're asking for what you want, you're picking up the phone, you're pitching yourself, you're putting yourself on social media, you wear what you want, you talk the way you want, you live and lead the way you want. And I think that in itself is evidence of success, my dear. So you are in the arena, you got it. So maybe there's something new that's around the corner for you. I know there's something new around the corner for me. I'm about to give a talk on Thursday, a talk I've never given. I'm incorporating some spoken word into that conversation. I'm going to be walking out onto stage with my first ever disco ball, suggesting that a disco ball is actually a business plan. And so I'm taking some big risks.
I love it.
Yeah, and this is fun. So, but it's also terrifying. Why? And here's why. What if it works?
I know. Right. Then you've got to have a disco ball at every talk.
Right. Like, what if it works? What if I succeed? And what is the change on the other side of it? And here's one thing I know for sure about all of my years really looking at fear is that fear hates when you change. Fear actually wakes up every day with one job: to stop you. Because if you change and you grow and you do the thing on stage with the spoken word and the disco balls and something happens, you might change and grow and become something even bigger and better and smarter and faster. And then, oh my God, me and fear might not need each other as much anymore. So fear's going to do everything it can right now. I give this talk on Thursday. So here's what fear's doing right now. Fear is in my office and fear is telling me, people they're going to make fun of you. You're crazy. You're too old for this. It's not going to, no one's going to take
Donna
you seriously.
Summer lives, baby.
Yeah. So this fear of success for me, if I am afraid of doing something, it's a clue that I'm on the right path. It means I have to do it. And because I know better, I do better. Meaning, and I don't know what it is for you that's maybe bubbling up this fear of success, but here's the way I look at it. I'm going to try something on Thursday and one of two things are going to happen. It's going to work and it's going to be great, or I'm going to learn and it's still going to be great. And I'll write about it and I'll make edits. And so how can I really lose on Thursday? I think the only way I lose is by not trying, right? Because if I don't put it out there, then fear wins. Like fear won, me zero. But if I do put it out there, then, oh, wow, I might change on the other side of this. So this is why I think we fear success so much, because it means change and fear hates change. And so again, this is why fear is a beautiful clue, for me, how I know I need to keep going. So.
Right. And when you go through that fear, at least I find for me, you build a muscle that you are stronger, you can take on more. It builds on each other. If you give in to the fear, I've often found it gets bigger.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And this is why. So I don't know if you've ever seen one of my speeches. So we're going to have to change that. We're going to have to work together.
Yes. But I actually watched you on TED Talk.
Oh my gosh, fun. Okay, so these days, I now walk out onto stage because I'm having conversations about courage, okay? And I'm trying to get teams and leaders to reframe fear and to get comfortable in discomfort. So I got to kind of walk the walk before I talk the talk. So these days, I come out in a sequin suit, like full sequin, okay? And that is very on purpose. And here's why. Because you can't play small in sequin.
Right.
And even if it's not sequin, it's a hot pink suit. You can't hide in hot pink, right? Like my book can't hide on those shelves.
Yeah, no, I love the pink.
You know what I mean? And that was
it.
on purpose. And yeah, it's a power color. And of course I love sequin. But the conversation is really like, okay, well, how do we shine brighter? How do we get the results we want? How do we perform at high levels? How do we create environments of real collaboration? Well, we can't play it safe. Like we have to do the thing that feels awkward and uncomfortable. And the more we do this, like you said, the braver we get. It's a muscle. So every time I wear a sequin suit on stage, stage, I'm in the gym. Like I'm walking the walk. Like I'm getting braver. And I'm also sending a big message that, hey, when was the last time, clothes aside, like when was the last time you pushed the envelope? You tried something new. I think so many of us are choosing the little black dress every day, clothes being my metaphor. Like, right. Where can you look at your schedule and
playing
go,
it safe? Sure. And if you're in Vegas, Judi, they might think that you've come from the night into the day in your outfit. I just can't. With your disco ball and your sequence, you got the walk of shame there, girl. I'm just saying.
I'm bringing it right to the stage.
You just be right out there and you be you. And yes. I'm sure, there's so much to be said for that. I think so many times we try to blend in or we try to play it down or we don't want to get too noticed, or I've even done that myself. Like, ooh, I don't want. I remember once my mother said, "Oh, I didn't want you to stand out that much. That might not be a great coat." I'm like, "Oh, who thinks like that?" It's kind of crazy how we downplay ourselves.
Dim
so
the
it's
light.
such a great message, and you walk your talk. I love that. And you're an advocate also for building tribes to support your growth, kind of like a Beyonce beehive, right? How do you make sure that the right people are invited to your parties, to your individual parties?
Well, I think you get smarter about who you invite to your party the older you get. I think difficult people can show up in our lives to really teach us patience and, what we want and what we don't want. But, I think the larger conversation around tribes and the power of a good posse is, and, I come from the improv theater, so it's all about the ensemble. Like literally, that's my only job on stage is to make the people I'm playing with look better than me. And in a world that is so mine, me, if you were more shine, like how could you change your life and your world and your circumstances, right? So I get asked the question a lot, this question of, what's the secret to your success? And you know what I say, truly? I mean, yes, hard work, of course, like discipline. Nobody talks about the discipline it takes to really make things happen. I mean, there's so much discipline, but equal to that, people. There have been so many people that have helped me get to where I am today. I mean, I have a background in the meetings industry. Like I came from this industry. Like I opened hotels for a living before I was a professional speaker. And I really became sort of a star in my own backyard, if you will, speaking at all the meetings and getting involved in MPI and PCMA and all the things. And
great place to cut your teeth too. But wait a second. You, I believe, went to that little place called Second City.
I did.
Like you were Saturday Night Live folks. That's big. That's big.
So when I moved to Chicago by way of a promotion in the meetings industry for a hotel company, I was moving up to regional sales, global sales. I was single and, kind of new to Chicago. So I'm like, let me go take improv. And I've always wanted to try it. I did speech meets throughout school. And my favorite thing about my sales job was the presentations and the site visits and the storytelling that was a part of selling destinations and all the good stuff. And I could just, I just loved that. I said, well, if I go take improv, could I meet some fun people? A, selfishly, I need to get out of my comfort zone. And B, could this help me become a more confident presenter and just all of these things? And who knew that it was going to end up becoming my life's work? I ended up quitting my job, writing a business, starting a book, doing all these things. And now I share the ideas from the improv stages across the world, right? And it is always the ensemble. I come back to that, the tribe. It is all the people in my life, from the improv theater to the meetings business to just my professional colleagues in the speaking industry now, and even to women like you who have helped me get to where I'm at today. I am so grateful for that. And I think we have to have an ensemble. I don't know about you, but you've got to ask for what you want too. Mel Robbins always reminds me, she's like, listen, don't be mad.
Yes,
if you don't get what you don't ask for. Go ask for it. Because what's the worst that's going to happen?
She's phenomenal. I mean, totally
phenomenal.
Agree. Totally
right?
agree. You got to put yourself out there.
You got to put yourself out there. So the tribes are a big deal. So you got to go get you some. And even if someone comes into your world that feels negative, you get a choice on how much you're around that person. But also, what could you be learning from that? You certainly learn how you don't want to be and what you don't want in your life.
Absolutely. Lots of those.
Set boundaries.
I've had lots of those in my life, but also
same. The yes but leaders.
Yeah, I get it. It's who you know, right?
It's who you know.
Who you know.
And what you ask for. I've just started getting braver. I think the older I get, the braver I get too, because now I have evidence of success. So I'm just, I move faster and I'm less afraid of being perfect. And I'm like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? But what's the best that could happen? Like, what if Mel Robbins actually endorses my book? And she did, by the way, right? Like, what if she does? Like, what if Simon Bailey becomes a mentor? What if Jade Simmons becomes a mentor? And they did, and they are, right? And so what if what if you get what you want? I think we spend so much time worrying about what could go wrong. Right. There's so much more power in like, oh man, what could go right? And that's what I'm chasing.
Oh, I love that. You're inspiring me. I might not be here much longer. I'm going to go follow you. So as a CEO, and I still am here, so as a CEO, because I still am, I have to ask, because, being a woman on top, what do you mean by bossing up? How do you overcome your fear in the business to start a business? You've started a business. As women, we're not supposed to be bossy. Bossy is not. Did you meet Tina Fey, by the way?
No, I've never met her. I wish.
And Amy Poehler, all those friends.
All of them. I feel like they're my friends. There's a couple slides I have in my presentation where they're there, and I refer to them by their first names. I'm like, and as Amy says, like, we're best friends. As Amy says, as Tina says.
I'm sure she probably says the same thing about you.
Oh, for sure.
I think I heard her say that. I saw her not long ago.
Oh, but
God. Bossy pants and Tina Fey and all of that and bossing up, it can have a real negative connotation, but you own it.
Yeah,
you own it. And we want more of that. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about being the CEO of your own life. So whether you run a company or work for someone else's, you're running your business every day. Like your business, like this is a business. And at the end of the day, I'm a perishable item. And if this doesn't work, nothing else works. So I am like relentless on this like pursuit of protecting my peace, setting boundaries, and remaining disciplined. And I have gotten so much stronger and better in that the older I get too, right? Boundaries, discipline, asking for what you want. I think the yes and mindset from the improv theater really helps me here. If someone were to come to me on my team and say, hey, I really want to do this on your team, or I really want this promotion, or I really want to write more content for you, and I know they're not ready yet. Me saying, yeah, I understand you want to write more content for my company, or you want to be in lead sales efforts for my team, but you're not ready yet. Feels very different than, yes, I understand you want to lead sales efforts on my team, and great, let's put a plan together to get you ready, right? Like that feels collaborative. That feels like love. That feels like, wow, okay, we're in this together. So I think some of those subtle shifts have really helped me be bossy without sounding like a B word, right?
I gotcha. The B.
So I don't know. It's about asking for what you want. And just most importantly for me, you don't need a big enterprise to like have a big career. And I think the most beautiful thing to constantly consider is that you're running this business every day and you're the CEO of that. And you get to decide what you let in, what you get rid of, how you structure that. And, I think really understanding what puts you in overflow can really give you a beautiful career. I think these days, having a full glass, it ain't enough.
Right.
I think we as women, there is so much coming at us, certainly as CEOs. We have to get into such a state of overflow so that when I give, there's still stuff left for me. There's still enough left.
Have that. Yep. Get it.
So I'm not half full. Because it's not enough. Because when I'm half full, I'm not that fun to be around.
I know, me either. Yeah. I don't even like me.
I don't like me.
And it's hard to remember sometimes to save that little bit at the end of the day for you and not leave it all out there. Because, we do, I hate to be like a stereotype, but, giving is a lot of joy. And I think as women, we enjoy that, not to stereotype, but you gotta be the CEO of you. I love that.
That's what it means.
That's going to be my new mantra. Who are you? My son says, "Are you the principal at work?" I'm the principal of me. How about that?
The queen of me.
I say, off with their heads. Off with their heads. And that's what happens. I'm a bossy up. I'm bossy.
I love it.
Let's not kid ourselves. The last 3 years have certainly been challenging, and for speakers and meeting planners. And you say resilience takes guts. What does it look like in your context of getting back to work, and what challenges have you faced in that process?
Oh, resilience does take guts, but I think even more so than that and equal to that, what I'd add to the book now, knowing what I know post-COVID, and another book will come. I think I'm writing that right now. So many things are happening in my life and in my business, and I'm not ready to tell that story yet, but I will. She's coming. But I would add to that, transformation takes guts. And I think that is the name of the game. That's the real game we should all be playing, because we're all different on the other side of COVID. And how can you not be? Whether you were impacted deeply or not, but those of us listening, I mean, if you're listening right now, you're one of us. You were in the meetings industry during COVID, and there is not one heartbeat listening right now that did not feel the effects of that. And so for me, how I'm really different on the other side, I always knew meetings meant business. I always knew the value of face-to-face. Like I always knew it. I mean, heck, I knew I remember seeing Simon Sinek speak for the very first time.
I do too. MPI.
2006 MPI, when he blanked out on stage. I write about it in my book.
Me too. I started in the hotel business as well. Yeah. Yeah. And he's great. I follow him too. He's got a lot of great insights, but he was very eye-opening. I'm with you. I was there for that.
It was transformational. And, going to these meetings, whether it be our association annual conferences, the events you put on, just events in general, you go somewhere else and you hear from other people outside of your leadership team, and you get this sense of personal development. And there is a lot of research right now. I'm actually presenting it on Thursday. There is a global culture report that came out by O.C. Tanner, and you could Google this up. It's their global culture survey, and it surveyed, 33,000 people, workers across industries post-COVID, and they have found that the number one reason people stay at companies and with leaders is love, and the number one reason people are leaving is there's no career development, no personal development. So if meetings meant business before COVID, they mean business even more now.
Absolutely.
And so personal development and smart meetings, it matters. Okay. And for me, the biggest thing I learned, I think the biggest mistake I made in COVID, because I was just in survival mode. I was trying, instead of sort of flowing with the chaos and picking up the phone and checking in, I went outward and I just created.
We did too.
Manic.
We did too. We got manic. We were out there.
Manic.
Oh, that's not working. Let's try something else. Oh, we'll get them. They must be hiding over there. We'll go get them over there. Crazy times. Like I missed a lot of Netflix and naps. I feel very cheated.
Yeah. I just, instead of going inward and like not only checking in with myself and just taking a deep breath, because things were pivoting to Zoom and things were okay. And I was so grateful for that ability to react to that and being tech savvy. And we put a studio together and we delivered keynotes virtually. I stopped checking in with my clients. And I think now on the other side of it, I have put an even bigger light onto the picking up the phone and the checking in and the touching base and all of that, right? Because I just lost touch with people. And a lot of that has come back around. And I think nobody thought any the wiser of it because we were all just trying to figure out how to survive. But for me, that was such a pillar of my business and a cornerstone of, I think, what's made me so successful that I just lost focus. I took the focus away from it and I felt it, right? And so that now has just become a great lesson for me on the other side of COVID is just meetings mean business even more. And the data and the research is showing us that. But, when things get painful and things are hard, I think that's when we need to go in even more, all in on our relationships, all in on ourselves. And we need to lean on each other instead of react, right? Maybe it's time to take a pause and really reflect, right?
I agree with that. And I also see it's interesting since COVID and we forged ahead. We were the first that came out with a virtual event in our space. And most people were just like, what's going on? Nobody really was getting a lot of good information. Like hotels were all letting people go and planners weren't meeting. And it was just our job, we felt, was to keep people informed. And yet I have noticed since we weren't able to be together. Now that we are together, we're nicer. Yeah. And I really feel that people have come back at
more grace.
More grace, much more grace. We come into our events and people are appreciative and there's not the complaints over little things there used to be. And it just feels like people are really there to connect on a deeper level too, which I find so much more satisfying.
So good. And that's what people want. That's what all the research is saying. Like second to love is flexibility and an internal sense of like mental wealth and well-being. And so I think you're right. It all points to grace. And I think people have put a lot of things into perspective. And I think as event architects and event designers and experience creators, because that's really what we are there to design experiences that move people into action. What a great thing to have on our side now. And what a great thing to lean into as we continue to meet.
Yeah. We changed our name from events to experiences. Oh my gosh, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And nobody was really doing that. And now it's become a thing. So, I'm thrilled to be kind of a catalyst in that because a great meeting, my staff used to always say, oh no, she's She's just come back from a meeting. She has a lot of new juju. Here she comes. She's going to use it on us. But, I was so inspired. I'd come back alive and we needed to do this. And we needed to do that. And oh my gosh, we got to go over here. So that's really when it is effective. And it's great. I really want to put that in our hindsight. But since you are all about, moving through and fear, it's hard not to bring up the resiliency that was required because a lot of people are still struggling. It's still a real thing. So it lives on, and hopefully we'll be all braver because I'm going to reread My Fear is My Homeboy, which I love that is your husband a rapper? Do you have a rapper? Did you have a rapper boyfriend? Where did this come from?
He is the furthest thing from it too, which is so funny. Like, it's so funny. We're 9 years apart. He's like an 80s kid. I'm a 90s kid. So, that was just, that was a very purposeful choice. I think it's a very me choice. Saying fear is my friend would be not very Judi. I grew up in the 90s and
right.
It's such a term of endearment. Everything we loved was our homeboy, like everything we loved. And
everything.
So when I was thinking of titling the book, I said, oh my God, well, that's what we have to figure out how to fall in love with our fear. So let's befriend it. Let's make it our homeboy. Let's make it our ride or die. Let's rock with it.
Yeah. And you use such fun words. They go on and on throughout the book.
How I talk.
It's really, it's very fun. And I get a real kick out of that. And it makes it yours. And I think it's such a good book. And I think your message is so good. And anybody listening to this podcast, you've got to follow Judi Holler. What is your Instagram? How do they find
It's Judi with an I, last name Holler, HOLLER on Instagram. And then, of course,
JudiHoller.com. You're going to thank us for that recommendation because Judi is fun, and I mean fun with a capital F. She totally inspired. Sometimes I watch that and I'm like, oh my God, I just loved that. I'm in a better mood. I feel good. You have a really great capacity or ability to move people and change their state, which is a huge gift and something that I gained from you. And that's the truth. I'm not one to make it up. So thank you so much for being with us here today on What One Thing. And I have to ask you, because that's the name of the podcast, what one thing would you describe made a difference in your life, your career, that maybe some of our listeners could apply to their lives?
Hands down, experimenting with my fear every day on purpose. Keywords there, on purpose. So conducting daily fear experiments. So me choosing to wear sequin when everyone else is in black suits, that's a choice. It's trying new foods and sitting in the front row and asking for the raise and going for the promotion and looking at my schedule and going, where am I playing it too safe? It's picking up the phone. It's making the sales call. It's pitching. It's putting your face on social, right? It is all these micro moments of bravery. 3 seconds of courage can change your life. And that is it. And that is what I teach in my keynotes. That is what I learned from the improv theater, that the only way to get braver is to play with it. So I play with it every day. What a great message. And what a one thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go home and I'm going to try to walk on my railing that's really high up. Thank you for your very brave energy and your effervescent being and all that you have to offer us. So thank you again for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing much more of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Smart Meetings What One Thing was produced by Bright Business Media. Visit smartmeetings.com to subscribe to your daily dose of inspiration.